Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Zahra, and today I'm going to go over 5 ways you can mentally prepare yourself for an awesome Islamically inspired homeschool year. So you're homeschooling this year, mashallah. Whether this will be your first time or you've been doing it for years, I want to help you get into the right mental state so that you can have an amazing academic year with your kids. This time of the year, moms are usually searching for what to teach or how to teach it. They're looking for resources. They're getting inspiration from other homeschoolers and on how to set up their learning space or their routines, or perhaps you're exploring the different curricula that you may consider using. And all that stuff is important. But what if I told you it's only half the recipe for a successful homeschool? See, I follow a principle in everything I do in my entire life, whether it be my family, how I parent, how I run my business, how I teach, and that is mind over matter. Okay? So everything you're searching for is great and it's important, but the most important component that you need is to have the correct mind state when you are approaching this task of homeschooling. How you show up mentally and how you think of yourself and your abilities, what you envision, will have a greater impact on your homeschool successes than anything else. So you may ask, now, how's that? It's because whatever you train your mind to focus on is what becomes the reality. So if you train your mind to be positive, you will always find solutions and you'll make the most of any situation, regardless of the time you have or the resources or lack of. And if you train your mind to be negative, then even when simple solutions are smack in your face, you'll avoid them because your brain is wired to reinforce negativity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Hadith Qudsi, I am as my servant expects me. That's narrated in Bukhari and Muslim. And in another narration in Sahih ibn Hibban, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if he thinks good of me, he will have it. If he thinks evil of me, he will have it. And as you see, it's whatever you anticipate or expect Allah to give you is what you will receive from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you believe that Allah will make you successful as a homeschooler, then Allah will make you successful. And the opposite is true. If you believe that you will fail or that you will mess up your children's education or that you're not cut out for it or that things are going to go wrong, then you have to realize that what you think that will happen is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will decree for you. And this is what I want to tell you, okay? Whether you have an amazing productive year or a miserable non-productive year, both will come by the qadr of Allah. So why not anticipate an amazing productive year? Think good of Allah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you what you seek. Either way, whatever the outcome is by the decree of Allah. So if the decree is that it's going to be miserable, don't you think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can also decree that you'll have the best year ever? Of course He can. And that is why I want to focus on perfecting or fixing your mental state, your mind state on how you will approach the homeschooling before you even think about what and how to teach. To add to that, getting into the right mind state will make things a lot more manageable. When you have the right mindset and you are clear about what you want, then everything else will become far more manageable. I can't say that it will become easier because teaching and homeschooling is an ongoing learning process with ups and downs, just like running a business or really in doing anything. There will always be wins, there will be losses, and there will be lots of rerouting. But when you have the right mindset, you'll be equipped to take on the challenges and you will continue to be positive about the process and as well as enjoy the process bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, because you know that you are going to get the most out of this and you know that it's going to be a great year, right? And so when your mind is already convinced of that, then you will always look for positivity, inshallah ta'ala. So today, I want to go over 5 steps to help you prepare mentally for a blessed homeschool year. The first step is to own your decision. You have made the choice to take your children's education into your own hands. I know, it sounds scary, I know, but it comes with the territory. There will always be fears in pursuing anything that is worthy. So don't worry about all the fears. They are natural. They are absolutely natural, but you cannot allow them to paralyze you. Just think about anything that you want to do in life or anything that you've wanted to pursue, whatever that may be. There were always fears, and there will always be fears. And courage, there's a famous statement that goes, courage is not the absence of fear, but it is going forward in the presence of fear. So it may seem scary, especially if it's your first time. There may be days that you doubt yourself and things like that. However, you cannot allow that to paralyze you. So when you take ownership of your decision and you realize that, yes, I have made this choice, whether the circumstances led to it or whether it's something that I personally want to do, I am making the choice to now start homeschooling my children. And by owning that decision and saying, yes, I am a homeschooler, or I will homeschool, there's something very empowering about that. You have taken control. And when you take control, you're not looking at other people for validation. You're not looking for other people to tell you that you're good enough or that you're doing the right thing. I mean, those things are very nice to hear, and it's important that we extend those positive and encouragement statements to other sisters when we see them homeschooling as well. However, when you take control, then you're not spending so much time self-doubting and telling yourself, am I doing the right thing? Am I good enough? Because you've already decided. It's my decision. I made this decision. That means I believe I can do it. And let's move forward. And now the powerful thing about that is that you're no longer exerting mental energy in trying to convince yourself that you're doing the right thing. Now that energy can better be spent on finding solutions or having a great time homeschooling. It can be better spent in other areas. The second step to preparing yourself mentally for a successful homeschool year is to set intentions that motivate you. Now, intentions are an extremely powerful tool to keep the motivation going. The Prophet ﷺ said, "The deeds are considered by the intentions, and a person will get the reward according to his intention." So, what is your why for homeschooling? Why is it important to you? And why are they in your presence at home instead of school? The intentions are not only to keep you focused and to motivate you, but also they are a source of ibadah if you connect them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, we may all have different reasons for why we decided to homeschool. Perhaps it's financial, perhaps you're not convinced with the school system, perhaps you know that you can do a far better job. Whatever the reason may be, you can take this as a golden opportunity to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because tarbiyah, first of all, is our job as parents to begin with. And homeschooling is education, and it's also tarbiyah. And secondly, what is our ultimate goal in life? Our ultimate goal in life is to seek the pleasure of Allah, so that we may die as Muslims whom Allah is pleased with, so that He may enter us into His Jannat al-Na'im. And may Allah grant us all Jannah. Ameen. So this is a golden opportunity to engage in an act of ibadah. And how can you do that? By setting your intentions for Allah. Why are you homeschooling? You're homeschooling so that you may produce righteous Muslims who are intelligent, who are critical thinkers, who have the skills and tools necessary to live and to provide for themselves and to produce something for the ummah. When you enter your class every day, when you go to teach, or when you're planning a lesson, or when you are helping to organize their academic journey or their learning journey, or whatever activities that you engage in, treat it as an act of ibadah. Treat it as you would if you were working, right? If you were working, you would try to do the job the best way possible. And so treat it like that. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you, and this is an opportunity to seek His pleasure, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is and then you will be rewarded for that particular intention. And do it with ihsan. I'm teaching my children this particular skill because this skill will help them do X, Y, Z, and inshallah get closer to Allah in that way. Another intention that you may set is the intention of strengthening the bond between you and your children. And that and we've all many people are saying that this current era of the coronavirus and the quarantine that we're in and the social distancing, we have become closer to our children and we have begun to spend more time as a family. And so through homeschooling, more opportunities are provided like that, and which will put you in a better position to instill important Islamic values in them. Another reason that you may have taken on homeschooling for is perhaps to support another project. Maybe you've wanted to do something in the field of education, and you homeschooling your own children puts you in a better position to actually produce things or to actually to learn more, for example. And so these are different intentions that you can set for yourself that inshallah will be a source of motivation to keep you going. And it's so important to review these intentions and to renew them regularly so that you always have a sense of motivation. I mean, motivation is not going to be continuous and constant all the time. You'll have days where you don't feel like doing much, but then those days you can revisit your big why, and inshallah that will keep you going. And I think it's also important and really powerful to repeat your intentions to yourself on a regular basis, if daily, if possible, if not at least weekly, so that you keep, especially your intention for Allah, so that you keep yourself grounded and reminded for what your purpose is. What's my intention behind this? And then do it sincerely, seeking Allah's face, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so you've owned your decision. You've set an intention that will motivate you. The third step that I would like for you to do in order to prepare yourself mentally is decide on how you would like your homeschool to be. Okay, you can get out a piece of paper, pen and paper, press pause if you like, and I want you to just jot down everything you envision your homeschool to be. Okay, you can write descriptive words. Write down how it looks, write down how it smells, how it feels, how it sounds. Write down everything. Just let your just pour it out onto paper on how you personally would like your homeschool to be. Okay, it doesn't mean it's going to be like that perfect 100%, but at least this will give you something to work towards. Okay, and not only that, but it will also help you stay balanced and focused so that you don't fall off track when you see other homeschoolers doing X, Y, and Z, or when you learn about a new curriculum, or when you see bloggers or sisters on social media sharing the different things that they're doing with their children. You can go back and revisit your list or your vision board on what your homeschool, what you want your homeschool to be like, and say, yes, this is what I want and this is what I'm working towards. And the reason why this step is important is because, like I said, you become more focused on in what you're looking for and what really matters to you. And this is why this is an activity that you should do by yourself, for yourself. You don't need to go and search and get inspiration on what a homeschool should be like. Dig deep, tap deep into your own personality, your values, how you want to, what kind of children you want, what kind of home you want, what kind of environment would also be beneficial for you and encouraging for you and fun for you as well. And then seek your children's advice as well, because this area matters for them as well. And then jot that down and try to avoid getting pulled in to social media and all the homeschooling bloggers. I mean, they're great, mashallah, and amazing to look at for inspiration. But once you know what you want, then you can go and look at other people who are doing similar things as what you have already written down. That way you are not going to be distracted or feel guilty for doing or for living somebody else's vision, inshallah. All right, so the fourth step of preparing yourself mentally is deciding on who you have to become in order to make possible what it is that you want to achieve. Okay, so you've owned the decision, you've set the intentions, for why you're homeschooling, and you've written down what you would like your homeschool to be. So you have an idea of what you want your homeschool to be like. Now, who do you have to be in order to make that possible? Who do you have to show up? How will you show up for your children? What attitudes will you need to adopt to make your ideal homeschool a reality? Now, when we say ideal, we know that perfection is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and really trying to be perfect is a setup. Okay, it's a setup, but we don't look for perfection, we don't look for idealism. But the important thing about knowing what you want or what kind of atmosphere is, then it will help you start to behave in a certain way to make that possible. And that's what step 4 is about. Who do you have to become to make that possible? What do you have to do differently or change about yourself to get closer to having the homeschool that you want? So, for example, let's say you wrote down you want a joyful and fun environment. So what does that mean? That means you have to show up with more energy. Okay, so if you have to become an energized person, and to become an energized person may require you to adopt a lifestyle of exercising. Maybe you want an organized homeschool. Okay, so that means you're going to have to become an organized person. To be organized, you may need to get up earlier, or you may have to allocate time in the week to plan and all. Perhaps you wrote down that you want a loving and affectionate relationship with your children as you teach them. Then that may require you to be a more present and intentional person. So how will you become a more intentional and present person? Perhaps it may mean that you have to keep your phone far away outside of the learning environment. Maybe you have to set up rules where you don't take calls at certain times, for example. Maybe you wrote down you want a stress-free homeschooling. Maybe you want your homeschool to be stress-free. Okay, but you are a bit militant, So what does that mean? It means that you're going to have to be a more flexible person. So step 4 is about deciding on who you need to become, or what you need to change in order to make in order to have a successful homeschooling life. And it doesn't mean you have to change yourself internally, but it may mean that you have to adopt certain qualities, certain characteristics, certain attitudes, and perhaps exercising more or learning more of something in order to make possible what you envision. And the last thing, the 5th step to preparing yourself mentally, is deciding on your non-negotiables. Okay, what are the things that are non-negotiable in your homeschooling journey? Right, and now it's not easy to separate homeschooling from parenting, and you shouldn't really be separating it, because all of it is tarbiyah. But think about how things were last year, or what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about your children? What did you learn about your relationship? What did you learn about your role as a teacher and an educator especially during this time, this quarantine, coronavirus, social distancing time? There's a lot of things that we have learned about ourselves, and perhaps there's certain things that you found that worked really well, and some things that weren't working that may need to change. So what are those things that will be non-negotiable during this year? Okay, and so you may want to decide on some things or some principles that you will stick to. For example, let's say one of your non-negotiables is that on the weekends we don't do schoolwork. Okay, now you're going to have to try to stick to that. So even if your child did not finish the work, you cannot use the weekend as a punishment. For example, this is just an example. Perhaps one of your non-negotiables is that Quran has to be done no matter what. Like, even if we have an off day, or homeschool's canceled one day, or we have an emergency of some sort, we will always try to get in our Quran time. For example, maybe that's a non-negotiable. Maybe a non-negotiable is that you will not do any extra spontaneous activities until the homeschool day is done. Or perhaps the opposite is true. Maybe this year you'll incorporate more spontaneous activities, or more events that are happening. You will participate in more outings with other homeschoolers, regardless if it's during the homeschool day or not. perhaps that will be your not negotiable, that you will not skip out on outings, for example. So you decide on what is non-negotiable. Maybe no appointments, or no phone calls, no appointments during such and such hour, for example. Perhaps that's your non-negotiable. Perhaps your non-negotiable, whatever the case may be. I'm sure you can think of it. Think of your situation, how things were. What do you want to see change? What do you want to implement? What do you want to relax on? And decide on that. And why is setting up non-negotiables important? Now, you don't have to have a ton of non-negotiables, okay? Just a few, just a couple, because this will give you a framework to work around. And you should also communicate it to your children so that they know that this is just one area that we're not very flexible about. Everything else, we're flexible about it. But however, these certain things, these are our guiding principles, and we're going to stick to them, inshallah. All right, so there you have it, 5 steps to prepare you mentally for a productive homeschool year. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you are now more confident and motivated to take on this year like the winner that you are, and I will be rooting for you. As a matter of fact, actually, why don't you join my Facebook group? It's a free group, and starting Sunday, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be starting a 5-day challenge to get you to implement these 5 steps above. So if you're looking for a community to encourage you, to motivate you, to push you forward, just click on the link below and join my Facebook group. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.